The holiday table looked like a magazine spread. Roasted turkey, polished silverware, candles melting in perfect symmetry. I had spent all day preparing it, humming Sinatra under my breath like an idiot who still believed in family dinners. At 6:04 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message from my son. "Dad, we went to Europe to get away from you." I stared at the screen for maybe 10 seconds. The turkey was still steaming, the wine was breathing. Everything was ready except the people who were supposed to be here. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I didn't curse, didn't scream, didn't flip the table. I simply untied the apron, turned off the lights in the dining room, and walked into the kitchen, where Diana was arranging dessert plates. "They're not coming," I said. She looked up. Her hands stopped moving. In 32 years of marriage, she'd learned to read my silences better than most people read books. "What happened?" I showed her the message. She read it twice, then set down the plate she was holding with unusual care, as if any sudden movement might shatter something far more fragile than porcelain. "Harry," she said quietly. "I know." "What are you going to do?" I looked at the dessert plates, at the perfectly arranged table visible through the doorway, at the life we'd built that apparently meant nothing to the person we'd built it for. "I'm going to teach him what silence sounds like." Diana studied my face. Whatever she saw there made her nod slowly. She picked up her phone and started taking photos of the table, every angle, every detail, timestamps visible. "Evidence," she said. "You'll need it." That's when I knew she understood. We spent the next hour sitting at that table alone, eating methodically, talking through 33 years of raising Eric. Every missed birthday he'd blamed on work. Every promise he'd broken. Every time Melanie had smiled that cold, calculating smile while steering him further away from us. "She's been doing this for 2 years, Diana said, refilling her wine. "Systematically. I watched her. Every family gathering, she'd find some excuse to leave early. Every conversation she'd redirect away from you. I know. And you let it happen. I was trying to be understanding. You were being a doormat." She said it without anger, just surgical precision. "And now he thinks he can walk on you." I pushed my plate away. The turkey tasted like cardboard now, but I'd eaten every bite anyway. Waste nothing. That's how I was raised. "They used my name," I said. "The car lease, the apartment, his business loans, my reputation built over 30 years, and he's been spending it like pocket change." Diana's eyes narrowed. "How much?" "I'll find out tomorrow." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand once, hard. "Don't do anything stupid. Define stupid. Anything that leaves evidence a prosecutor could use." I smiled for the first time that evening. "You know me better than that." "That's exactly why I'm worried." I stood up and started clearing plates. Diana joined me, and we worked in comfortable silence, the kind that comes from decades of shared rhythm. Load the dishwasher, wrap the leftovers, blow out the candles. Normal, methodical, calm. At 9:47 p.m., I made my first phone call. "Jimmy, it's Harry Bennett. Yeah, I know it's late. Listen, I need a favor. That thing you mentioned about document retrieval and asset verification, I'm interested." Diana watched from the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. I hung up and made 2 more calls, each one brief, professional, careful. By 10:30 p.m., I had appointments scheduled with a corporate attorney, a forensic accountant, and a security consultant who owed me from a job I'd helped him with 5 years ago. "Tomorrow morning," I told Diana, "I start mapping the system. And then I take it apart piece by piece." She nodded slowly. "He's your son, Harry. He stopped being my son when he sent that message." "You don't mean that." I looked at her directly. "Watch me." Something in my voice made her step back slightly. Not fear, recognition. She'd seen this mode before years ago when a company tried to screw me out of a patent. I'd systematically dismantled their case over 6 months, cost them $3 million in legal fees, and walked away with everything I was owed plus damages. I don't get angry. I get thorough. 7 days, I said. That's all I need. Why 7? Because that's how long their European vacation is. I checked the travel blog Melanie keeps updating. They're posting from Paris, then Barcelona, then Rome. Flying back next Saturday. Diana processed this. You're going to let them enjoy their trip? No. I'm going to let them think they're enjoying it, right up until everything collapses and they realize they can't afford the flight home. Jesus, Harry. Too much? She thought about it for a long moment. Then she walked over, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "Not nearly enough." That night, I didn't sleep much. I sat in my office going through files, spreadsheets, documents I'd kept meticulous records of because that's what engineers do. We document everything. Car lease, co-signed 2022, my name, my credit. Apartment, guaranteed by me when Eric's credit wasn't strong enough. Business startup loan, my reputation as collateral. Investment accounts, set up by me, transferred to him, still technically under joint access for emergency purposes. Line after line, signature after signature, my name holding up his entire adult life like a foundation he'd decided to take for granted. I started making lists. 4 pages, then 6, then 10. Every point of leverage, every legal loophole, every piece of the structure I'd helped build that I could now systematically remove. Diana appeared in the doorway at 2 a.m. with coffee. You should sleep. I will, soon. She set the mug down and looked at my notes. That's a lot of damage. That's the point. Harry. Her voice had that edge that meant she was about to say something I wouldn't like. Make sure the punishment fits the crime. It will. I mean it. Don't become the villain in this story. I looked up at her. I'm not the villain. I'm just removing the safety net. Let's see how well he flies without it. She didn't argue. She just kissed the top of my head and went back to bed. I worked until sunrise, building the framework of what would happen over the next 7 days. Every action carefully planned, every consequence precisely calculated. By the time Diana came down for breakfast, I had the entire operation mapped out. Phase 1 starts today, I told her. What's Phase 1? Financial disconnection. I'm terminating every co-signed agreement, every guarantee, every piece of support. Legally, cleanly, by the book. They'll panic. Yes, but they won't know it's me yet. They'll think it's bureaucratic errors, system glitches, bad timing. Diana poured herself coffee and sat down across from me. And when they figure it out? By then it'll be too late. She studied my face for a long time. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. I'm with you, she said simply. Whatever you need. I squeezed her hand back. Just keep being my eyes. Tell me if I'm crossing lines I shouldn't cross. Deal. At 9 a.m., I walked into the offices of Whitman & Associates, attorneys at law. Dennis Whitman had been my lawyer for 20 years. He knew my tolerance for nonsense was exactly 0. Harry, he said, standing up from behind a desk that probably cost more than Eric's car. Your message sounded urgent. It is. I need to terminate a series of financial agreements. Today. Legally airtight. No room for appeals or extensions. I laid out the documents. Dennis read through them carefully, his expression shifting from curiosity to understanding to something that might have been respect. This is your son, he said. Correct. You're pulling all support. Correct. This will destroy his credit. That's his problem. Dennis leaned back in his chair. All right. Give me 2 hours. I'll have everything drawn up and filed before lunch. Thank you. Harry. He looked at me over his reading glasses. I don't know what he did, but I hope it was worth this. He told me to disappear from his life. I'm just granting his wish. Dennis almost smiled. Message received. By noon, the first domino had fallen. Eric's car lease company received notice of the co-signer withdrawal, triggering an immediate credit review. Without my backing, his credit couldn't support the luxury sedan Melanie insisted on. They had 48 hours to provide another guarantor or surrender the car. Dennis, who had connections everywhere, monitored the accounts discreetly. First notification went out at 11:47 a.m. their time, he said. They're in Paris, probably at lunch. Perfect. The apartment management gets their notice by end of day. Even better. I checked my phone. No messages from Eric. Still posting croissants and Eiffel Tower photos, unaware his life was beginning to collapse. Diana found me alphabetizing socket wrenches in the garage. You're nervous, she said. Maybe a little. Second thoughts? No. Just doubts about whether I'm doing this because it's right or because I'm hurt. Can't it be both? She said. He humiliated you intentionally. You're not punishing him for your feelings. You're teaching consequences. You're not ruining his life. You're removing your support. The rest is on him. She was right, but something still felt off, like a machine running smoothly, but sounding wrong. At 2:15 p.m., Jimmy Corelli called, security consultant, former Army, expert at finding hidden information. You want a full workup on your kid? And his wife. That's extra. I don't care about cost. I care about thoroughness. Give me 3 days. You have 2. That timeline costs double. Done. What am I looking for? Anything that doesn't match the story they're telling. Anything that could be leverage. For what? For making sure they never underestimate me again. He paused. I've never heard you talk like this. People change. No, they just stop pretending. I'm not looking for comfort, I said. I'm looking for ammunition. Then you called the right guy. That evening, Diana and I went to our favorite restaurant, the one that knew us by name and never brought dessert menus because she always ordered the same thing. Normal, routine, the eye of the storm. You're quiet, Diana said over wine. Just thinking. About what? How strange it is that I'm calmer today than yesterday. That's because you have a plan, she said. You always function better with a plan. Is that what this is? Functioning better? Better than falling apart or begging him to love you again. You're solving a problem. He's not a problem. He's my son. He stopped being your son when he decided you were disposable. I wanted to disagree, but every attempt brought back that message. Calculated, casual cruelty. You're right, I said. I know. We ate quietly until her phone buzzed. Her expression changed. What is it? Melanie posted, designer store in Paris, caption, treating ourselves because we deserve it. She showed me, Eric smiling with luxury shopping bags, Melanie perfect as always, no mention of family, just curated happiness. Screenshot that, I said. Why? Evidence. For when they pretend I'm being unfair. She saved that post and others, expensive restaurants, 5-star hotels, designer clothes. This trip probably cost $15,000, she muttered. 18, I said. He asked my opinion last month. Wanted to know if it was too extravagant. What did you tell him? To spend within his means. And he ignored you. He always does. I've been the safety net so long he forgot there's ground underneath. She put her phone away. How long until phase 2? Tomorrow. Jimmy sends the background check. Then I adjust the timeline. And if he finds something bad? Then Eric's made worse choices than I thought and earns worse consequences. She squeezed my hand. You sound like you're going to war. I am. The battlefield is paperwork. We finished dinner and drove home in silence. The house felt emptier, as if the people who should have been there left a widening space behind. I spent the rest of the evening in my office refining the plan. Every detail, every contingency, every possible move and countermove. At 11 p.m., my phone rang. Jimmy. That was fast, I said. Yeah, well, preliminary findings were interesting enough that I kept digging. You want the summary now, or the full report tomorrow? Summary now. Your son's in deeper trouble than you think. That business loan? He's 3 months behind, been juggling payments, moving money between accounts, using credit cards to cover minimums. My stomach tightened. How bad? Bad enough that he's about 6 weeks from complete insolvency if something doesn't change. He's been using your name and reputation to keep creditors from calling the whole thing in. And Melanie? Her PR firm's collapsing. Lost 2 major clients last quarter, revenue down 60%. She's been hiding it behind social media smoke and mirrors, but the financials don't lie. I processed this. So they're drowning. They're drowning and pretending they're swimming. That European vacation? Probably financed on credit cards they can't pay off. Jesus. Harry, here's the thing. If you pull your support now, they don't just get inconvenienced, they get destroyed. That's the idea. I know. But I want to make sure you know what you're doing. This isn't teaching them a lesson. This is ending them. I thought about that message, about the casual cruelty, about 33 years of being taken for granted. Send me the full report, I said. Tomorrow morning. Everything. You got it. I hung up and sat in the darkness of my office for a long time. Diana appeared in the doorway. Bad news? Complicated news. She came in and sat down across from me. Tell me. I told her everything Jimmy had said. She listened without interrupting, her face grave. So they're already failing, she said when I finished. Yes. And you removing your support will just accelerate the inevitable. Yes. Then you're not destroying them. You're just stopping yourself from going down with them. I looked at her. That's one way to see it. That's the accurate way to see it, Harry. They've been using you as a human shield against their own bad decisions. You're just stepping aside. And if they end up homeless, bankrupt, then they learn what consequences feel like. Her voice was hard. And maybe, eventually, they learn humility. But that's not your problem anymore. She was right. I knew she was right. But something in me still hesitated. Diana stood up. Sleep on it. You don't have to decide everything tonight. But I already had decided. I just didn't want to admit it yet. That night, I lay awake thinking about the first time I held Eric. 24 hours old, impossibly small, completely dependent. I'd promised him the world, to always be there, protect him, love him. I kept that promise until the day he decided I wasn't worth even pretending to care. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed, a message from Eric. Dad, did you do something with the car lease? I'm getting weird notifications. I stared at it for a minute, then turned off my phone and went back to sleep. Morning brought clarity, the cold understanding that comes once emotion burns off like fog. I'd spent 33 years building a foundation for someone who thought foundations were optional. Time to see how he handles gravity. Jimmy's full report arrived at 7 a.m. 63 pages of financial records, emails, and behavioral patterns. I read it twice, highlighting key sections like engineering blueprints, Eric's business, hemorrhaging money for 8 months, client retention under 20%, revenue projections missed by 70%, 3 major deals lost for failure to deliver on timelines and quality. Melanie's firm, same story in a different field. She'd lost her 3 biggest clients over reliability issues and strategic misjudgments, meaning she overpromised and underdelivered until word spread. Together, they were a disaster pretending to be a success story, held up only by my money and name. Every Instagram post about success was a lie. Every fancy dinner on credit. Every smile a mask over growing desperation. They're living on credit and lies, I told Diana over breakfast. Another 2 months and they collapse anyway, with or without me. So you're not destroying them? No. I'm just refusing to be destroyed with them. She nodded slowly, her nurse's pragmatism showing. What's next? Phase 2. I accelerate the timeline. By the time they land back in the States, everything's already gone. I spread out the documents across the kitchen table. Bank statements, credit reports, lease agreements, business contracts, everything meticulously organized, color-coded by priority and vulnerability. Diana studied them with the same clinical detachment she used when reviewing patient charts. This is more than you told me about. I found more problems than I expected. Such as Eric taking out a second business loan using my name without my knowledge. Technically legal because I'd signed a blanket authorization 3 years ago, but ethically? I tapped the document. He forged my signature on the application addendum. Diana's expression hardened. He committed fraud. Essentially, yes. You could press charges. I could, but I won't, because watching him collapse under the weight of his own choices is more satisfying than watching him collapse in a courtroom. She considered this. You're angrier than you're admitting. I'm furious, but fury isn't useful. Cold calculation is useful. My phone rang at 8:30 a.m. Dennis Whitman. Harry, I've got good news and complicated news. Start with complicated. The apartment lease termination triggered an automatic review of Eric's other financial obligations. The landlord's attorney is asking questions about his ability to maintain payments without your guarantee. That's complicated how? Because it's moving faster than I expected. They want resolution within 72 hours, or they're starting eviction proceedings. I processed this. 3 days. That put it right at their return date. And the good news? The good news is that it's all happening exactly according to plan. Nobody's questioning your right to withdraw. Nobody's pushing back. You're legally bulletproof. I've reviewed every document 3 times. There's not a single thing they can challenge in court. Perfect. What about the business accounts? Filed the paperwork this morning. Joint access terminated as of noon today. He'll find out when he tries to access funds. Which he will. Which he absolutely will, because according to Jimmy's report, he's been moving money around constantly to cover minimum payments. He's been running what's essentially a shell game, robbing Peter to pay Paul, then robbing Paul to pay Peter. When he can't access those accounts, the entire house of cards stops. I felt a strange calm settle over me. Not satisfaction, not quite. Something colder, more surgical. The feeling I used to get when diagnosing a critical system failure, pure analytical focus, emotions stripped away. Keep moving forward, I told Dennis. No pauses, no mercy, no warnings. Understood, Harry? Yeah? I've been practicing law for 32 years. I've seen a lot of family disputes. This is the most methodical demolition I've ever witnessed. Is that a compliment or a warning? Both. I hope he knows what he lost. He will. I hung up and found Diana watching me from the kitchen doorway, coffee mug in hand, expression unreadable. You look different, she said. Different how? Like you've made peace with something. Maybe I have. She came closer, setting her mug down on the counter. Just remember, the goal isn't to destroy him, it's to free yourself. What's the difference? Intent, and when you're done, you'll know which one you achieved. I spent the rest of the morning on logistics, calls, emails, document transfers. The machinery of demolition moved forward with cold precision. No anger, no emotion, just procedures. To the car insurance company. Remove me as policyholder and guarantor. To the credit card company. Remove my authorization and liability. To Eric's business landlord. Withdraw my guarantee on the commercial lease. One by one, the support structure came down. Each call took less than 5 minutes. Each was final. Diana brought me lunch at 1 p.m., watching me with a mix of concern and approval. How many more calls? She asked. 3. Then we wait for the dominoes. You sound like you're decommissioning a nuclear reactor. Controlled shutdown, I said. Remove fuel rods, let the system cool. Except it's not safe for Eric. No, but it's safe for us. At 2 p.m., an unknown Chicago number called. Harry Bennett. Mr. Bennett, this is Travis Kellerman from Metro Capital Finance. We have a business loan with your son. You were the secondary guarantor. I withdrew that guarantee yesterday. Typing. Then, without it, we must review the loan. Given the business's financial state, this likely means demanding immediate payment or moving to default. That's between you and my son. Sir, this is a $240,000 loan. Without your backing, his business can't support it. It could destroy his credit and push him into bankruptcy. I guaranteed that loan in good faith. My son has made it clear he doesn't want me in his life. I'm respecting that. A long pause. Sir, with respect, this seems like an overreaction. Are you a father, Mr. Kellerman? Yes, 2 daughters. Then imagine one telling you she went on vacation to get away from you, after you supported her for 33 years, and you're still expected to keep catching her when she falls. Would you? Silence. I understand, he said softly. We'll proceed. And when Eric calls, don't tell him we spoke. That's appropriate. Good luck, sir. I don't need luck. I need distance. Diana appeared in the doorway. That sounded rehearsed. I've been practicing. The father part was a nice touch. It was honest. She kissed the top of my head. You're still a good man, even when you're ruthless. Am I being ruthless? You're being appropriate. The next 3 hours brought messages from creditors, the apartment manager, and Eric's business partner, Jason Trent, who wanted to discuss urgent concerns about financial stability. I ignored them all. At 4 p.m., I took a walk. Crisp autumn air, leaves crunching, normal, suburban, completely separate from the controlled collapse happening 500 miles away. An elderly neighbor, Margaret Fletcher, waved from her porch. Harry, haven't seen you in a while. How's Eric doing? He's learning some valuable lessons, I said, not breaking stride. That's wonderful. You must be so proud. Getting there, Margaret, getting there. I kept walking, letting the irony wash over me. Everyone assumes success. Everyone assumes happy families. Nobody sees the rot underneath until it collapses. When I got home, Diana was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Something smelled rich and savory, her famous pot roast, the one she only made for special occasions. We celebrating something? I asked. We're acknowledging something, she corrected. You made a hard choice. That deserves recognition, even if it doesn't feel like victory. We ate in the dining room, at the same table where I'd prepared that abandoned holiday dinner. The symmetry wasn't lost on either of us. How do you feel? Diana asked over wine. Numb, clear, focused. Not guilty? Should I be? Most fathers would be. I set down my fork. Most fathers don't get told their presence is so unwanted that their son flees to another continent to escape it. Most fathers don't discover their entire support system is being taken for granted and abused. Most fathers don't have to choose between enabling destruction or enforcing consequences. So, no guilt. Just clarity. At 6 p.m., Eric called. I watched his name flash on the screen, felt my pulse stay absolutely steady, felt nothing but cold clarity. I didn't answer. He called again at 6:15, then 6:30, then 4 times in rapid succession at 7 p.m., the calls coming so close together they almost overlapped. Still didn't answer. Diana watched from the couch, glass of wine in hand. You're really not going to talk to him? Not yet. Let him marinate in consequences first. That's cold. That's effective. At 7:45, Melanie called. I answered that one on the second ring, putting it on speaker so Diana could hear. Harold, we need to talk. Her voice had that careful, measured quality she used when manipulating people. The same tone she'd used at every family gathering when steering conversations away from topics she didn't like. There seems to be some kind of massive error with Eric's accounts and several of his business relationships. Credit lines are frozen, lease agreements are being questioned, and there's no error. Silence. Pure, shocked silence. I'm sorry? There's no error, Melanie. I withdrew my support from Eric's business and personal finances. Every guarantee, every cosign, every piece of my name and reputation that was holding up his life like scaffolding on a condemned building. You can't do that. I already did. As of yesterday morning, I am no longer financially connected to your husband in any way. No guarantees, no cosigns, no joint accounts, nothing. Why? The careful veneer cracked slightly, revealing panic underneath. What the hell is going on? Your husband sent me a message 3 days ago. He told me they went to Europe to get away from me. I'm simply respecting his wishes. He wanted distance. He's got it. All of it. Permanently. Harold, that message was taken out of context. No, it wasn't. It was crystal clear. 13 words that said everything I needed to know about how much I matter to him. And now I'm being equally clear. My financial support is withdrawn. My involvement is terminated. My patience is exhausted. Whatever happens next is between you and your creditors. You can't do this right before we come home. Her voice rose, the polished PR professional facade crumbling. We're in the middle of a vacation. We're thousands of miles away. We can't deal with this kind of crisis from here. Actually, that's precisely when I can do it. You'll land Saturday afternoon. By Saturday evening, you'll understand exactly what you took for granted. You'll see what life looks like without the safety net you've been using as a trampoline. You vindictive? I hung up. My hands weren't shaking. My heart rate was normal. I felt nothing, just cold, mechanical certainty. The same feeling I used to get when shutting down a malfunctioning system. No emotion, just procedure. Diana appeared with 2 glasses of bourbon, the good stuff we saved for rare occasions. You heard? I asked. Every word. You were brutal. Too brutal? She considered this while handing me a glass. No, accurate. She tried to manipulate you with that out-of-context nonsense, and you shut it down immediately. That's not cruelty. That's boundaries. That's self-respect. We drank in silence for a moment, the bourbon burning warm and real. How many days left? Diana asked. 4. They fly back Saturday. Think they'll make it? The flight? Probably. They already paid for it, and it's non-refundable. Everything after they land? I smiled without humor. That's when reality hits like a freight train. My phone rang again. Eric, then Melanie, then Eric again. Then an unknown number, probably someone they'd convinced to call on their behalf, maybe a friend or another family member. I silenced all calls and went back to my spreadsheets, adding notes, updating timelines, making sure every piece was positioned exactly right. Jimmy called at 9 p.m. Harry, I've been monitoring their social media like you asked. The posts stopped 4 hours ago. Last thing Melanie put up was a story about dealing with unexpected complications with a crying emoji. Before that, they were posting every 2 hours about restaurants and museums. The silence is loud. Good. You sound satisfied. I am. They're finally feeling consequences instead of just performing happiness for an audience. Harry, I've got to ask, what's the end game here? Where does this stop? They come home. They face reality. They learn that actions matter and words have weight. And then? Then I decide whether they've earned a conversation, whether they've demonstrated actual change versus just temporary desperation. That's cold, brother. That's accurate, brother. I spent 33 years being warm and supportive and available. It got me exactly nowhere except taken for granted. He laughed, that dark understanding sound again. All right. I'll keep monitoring. You need anything else? Just one thing. I need you to find out where Eric parked his car before they left for Europe. Exact location in the airport parking structure. Why? Because when the lease company repossesses it tomorrow or Friday, I want to make sure he sees the empty space. I want that moment of realization to hit him like a physical blow. Pause. You're diabolical. I'm thorough. There's a difference. What's the difference? Diabolical would be slashing his tires or pouring sugar in his gas tank. Thorough is letting the system handle it exactly as designed, exactly as the contracts stipulate, exactly as he agreed to when he signed the papers. Fair point. I'll get you the location by morning. Anything else? Keep tracking their movements when they land. I want to know when they discover each new problem. Will do, Harry? Yeah? For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Hard thing, but right thing. Most days I believe that. And the other days? The other days I remind myself that enabling someone's self-destruction isn't love. It's cowardice, disguised as kindness. I hung up and returned to my office. The wall now had a timeline mapped across a whiteboard in different colored markers. Every action, every consequence, every domino falling in precise order, like a Rube Goldberg machine designed to teach humility. Red markers for financial actions, blue for legal procedures, green for information gathering, black for Eric's predicted reactions. It looked like something from a military operation or a corporate hostile takeover, which, in a way, it was. I was taking back control of my own life by removing it from someone else's foundation. Diana came in with coffee at 11 p.m. You should sleep. Soon. She looked at the whiteboard, tracing the connections with her eyes. This is impressive and terrifying. This is necessary. Harry. She set down the coffee and turned to face me fully. I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Okay. When this is over, when they're broken and desperate and begging for help, are you going to be able to say no? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Turned the question over in my mind like examining a mechanical component for flaws. I don't know, I admitted. That's what worries me, because if you cave, if you rescue them after all this, then you're right back where you started. Worse, actually. You'll have proven they can treat you like garbage, and you'll still catch them when they fall. You'll have taught them that consequences are temporary, and manipulation eventually works. So, what do I do? You decide now. Right now. Before emotion enters the equation. Before you see your son crying on your doorstep. Before Melanie shows up looking desperate and defeated. You decide what your boundary is and you don't cross it. No matter what. She was right. She was absolutely right. I walked to the whiteboard and picked up a black marker. At the bottom, in large letters, I wrote, Boundary. No financial support. No guarantees. No rescue. Okay, I said, turning back to Diana. My boundary is this. I will not provide financial support. I will not co-sign anything. I will not guarantee anything. If they want a relationship, they rebuild it through actions, not words, through years of demonstrated change, not weeks of desperate promises. And if they refuse? Then I have one son, and his name was Eric, and he's gone. Diana's eyes glistened slightly. That's the hardest thing you've ever said. That's the truest thing I've ever said. She came over and kissed me, long and deep. I'm proud of you, and I'm with you, whatever comes. Even if it means losing him permanently? Even then, because you can't save someone from themselves, you can only save yourself from being dragged down with them. She left me alone with my timeline and my coffee and my cold, mechanical determination. I spent another hour refining the plan, making sure every detail was airtight, every action legal and documented, every consequence earned rather than inflicted. At midnight, I added one final note to the timeline. Day 7, final confrontation. Location, TBD. Because this wasn't just about financial consequences. It was about making Eric look at what he'd done, what he'd lost, what he'd taken for granted. It was about making him see me, really see me, for the first time in years. Not as a wallet, not as a safety net, not as a disposable convenience, but as a human being he'd hurt. Deliberately, cruelly, casually. 3 more days until they landed. 3 more days until everything fell apart. 3 more days until Eric Bennett learned what silence sounds like when it comes from someone who used to answer every call. I finished my coffee, turned off the office light, and went to bed. Tomorrow would bring new dominoes, new consequences, new lessons in what happens when you burn bridges you didn't build yourself. Thursday morning arrived with mechanical precision. Day 4 of 7. My phone lit up at 5:47 a.m. with Jimmy's text. Car located. Section E4, Level 3, O'Hare Long-Term Parking. Lease company notified. Repo scheduled for 8 a.m. today. I sent back a thumbs up and got out of bed, careful not to wake Diana. She'd been sleeping fitfully lately, caught between supporting me and worrying about where this was all heading. In the kitchen, I made coffee and reviewed my notes from the previous day. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The financial support withdrawn, the legal documents filed, the dominoes positioned perfectly. Now came the acceleration phase. Dennis called at 8:30 a.m., right on schedule. His voice had that careful, professional tone that meant news I'd want to hear. "Harry, good morning. I hope I'm not calling too early." "Not at all. What have you got?" "The business partner, Jason Trent, wants to meet with you. Says it's urgent. Says the company is in crisis and he needs to understand what's happening." "Tell him I'm unavailable." "He's persistent. Offered to fly here from Chicago. Says he'll camp outside your house if necessary." I almost laughed. Let him try. Tell him exactly this. I withdrew my support from Eric's business because Eric withdrew his respect from me. The company's problems are not my responsibility. If he wants to save the business, he should look for a partner who values his relationships instead of one who treats them like disposable conveniences. That's pretty harsh. That's accurate. And Dennis? Make sure he understands there's nothing to negotiate, nothing to discuss, nothing to salvage. I'm out completely and permanently. He's threatening legal action, says you violated the partnership agreement. What partnership agreement? I was never a partner. I was a guarantor who provided financial backing with the understanding that my son would run a professional, ethical operation. He failed on both counts. There's no contract that requires me to enable someone else's failure. Dennis made a sound that might have been approval. I'll relay that message in more professional language. You do that. Any other developments? Yes. The apartment management company called. They're moving forward with eviction proceedings. Without your guarantee, Eric doesn't meet their financial requirements. They've posted official notice and given him 72 hours to vacate or provide alternate backing. 72 hours. That put the deadline right at Saturday evening, just hours after their return. Perfect timing. Excellent. What else? The business bank called. They've frozen the accounts pending review of the guarantor withdrawal. Eric can't access operating funds until they complete their assessment, which will take at least 10 business days. But given the current financial state of the business, they'll likely require full loan repayment before releasing the freeze. How much is in those accounts? According to the last statement I saw, about $17,000. Not nearly enough to cover the outstanding loans or upcoming expenses. I did quick mental math. $17,000 wouldn't cover payroll, rent, insurance, and supplies for more than 2 weeks. Maybe 3 if Eric cut corners. So the business is effectively no longer functioning. Without an immediate cash infusion, yes. And without your backing, no one's going to provide that infusion. Good. That's exactly what should happen when you build a company on someone else's foundation and then kick out the foundation. Dennis was quiet for a moment. Harry, I have to ask. Are you sure about this? This isn't just financial consequences. This is complete demolition. Eric won't just be set back. He'll be ruined. Dennis, you've seen Jimmy's report. You know Eric was already failing. I'm not ruining him. I'm just stopping myself from being ruined with him. I know. I just wanted to make sure you understood the scale. I understand perfectly. Is there anything else? One more thing. The car repossession went through this morning. They've already picked it up. It's gone. I felt something cold and satisfied settle in my chest. Send me the documentation. I want proof of every action, every notification, every timeline. Already done. Check your email. I hung up and opened my laptop. Dennis had sent 3 PDFs, repossession notice, apartment eviction notice, and bank account freeze notification. I saved them all in a folder labeled Eric Consequences and backed everything up to the cloud. Diana appeared in the doorway, still in her bathrobe. That sounded productive. The car's gone. The apartment's next. The business is frozen. She poured herself coffee and sat across from me. How do you feel? Satisfied, efficient, clear. Not guilty? Should I be? She studied me for a long moment. Most people would be. I'm not most people. I'm an engineer who spent 40 years solving problems by identifying root causes and implementing systemic solutions. This is just another problem. The root cause is entitlement and disrespect. The solution is consequences. That's very clinical. That's very effective. The apartment management company called at 10 a.m. I answered on speaker so Diana could hear. Mr. Bennett, this is Amanda Chen from Parkview Luxury Residences. We need to discuss your son's lease situation. I'm no longer guaranteeing that lease. I submitted formal withdrawal 3 days ago. Yes, sir, we received that. The issue is that without your guarantee, your son doesn't meet our residency requirements. Our policy is very clear on this. We need him to provide alternate guarantees or evidence of sufficient income by tomorrow at 5 p.m., or we'll begin formal eviction proceedings. That's between you and him. Sir, he's in Europe. He's not responding to our calls or emails. We've tried contacting him 12 times in the past 24 hours. Then I suggest you keep trying, or proceed with eviction. Either way, it's not my problem. Mr. Bennett, I understand there may be family issues here, but we have a business to run. We have policies. We need resolution. Ms. Chen, I spent 33 years providing resolutions for my son, catching him when he fell, guaranteeing his commitments, supporting his ambitions. And 3 days ago, he sent me a message saying he went to Europe specifically to get away from me. So now I'm giving him what he wanted, complete separation. Whatever happens with his apartment is a consequence of his choices, not mine. Silence on the line. Then, more quietly, I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Bennett. I'll proceed according to our policies. I appreciate your professionalism. I hung up and looked at Diana. Too harsh? Too honest, which is sometimes the same thing. My phone buzzed constantly over the next hour, texts from numbers I didn't recognize, voicemails from people whose names I didn't know. Everyone suddenly very concerned about Eric's situation, everyone wondering what was happening, everyone looking for explanations. I deleted them all without listening. At noon, I took a break and went for a drive. Not anywhere specific, just out. Away from the house, away from the phone, away from the machinery of demolition I'd set in motion. I ended up at a park I used to take Eric to when he was young. There was a playground where he'd spent hours, climbing and running and laughing. I sat on a bench and remembered teaching him to swing, pushing him higher and higher while he screamed with joy. That boy had trusted me completely, had looked at me like I was a superhero who could fix anything, solve any problem, make everything okay. When did that change? When did I become the obstacle instead of the solution? When did love turn to contempt? I couldn't pinpoint a single moment. It had been gradual, like erosion, year by year, degree by degree, until the distance became a canyon, and I'd let it happen. I'd made excuses. I'd tried to be understanding. I'd given space when maybe I should have demanded presence. But that ended with one message. 13 words that crystallized everything. We went to Europe to get away from you. Not we needed a vacation, not we wanted some couple time, not any gentle evasion, just raw, casual cruelty. My phone buzzed, Eric calling. I watched it ring and thought about answering, thought about explaining, thought about giving him a chance to apologize before everything fell apart. Then I remembered that message and let it go to voicemail. He called again immediately. Then again. 6 calls in 10 minutes, each one more desperate than the last. I turned off my phone and drove home. Diana was in the garden when I arrived, pulling weeds with focused intensity. She did that when she was processing things, turned to plants and soil and growth. "You okay?" she asked without looking up. "I went to the old playground." That was masochistic. That was necessary. I needed to remember why I'm doing this. And I remembered that the boy I pushed on swings doesn't exist anymore. He grew up into someone who thinks I'm disposable, so I'm treating him like he treated me. She finally looked up, dirt on her hands, compassion in her eyes. "That's sad, Harry. That's honest, Diana." At 3 p.m., Jimmy called with an update. Their social medias exploded. Melanie posted a long rant about toxic family dynamics and learning who really supports you. Eric commented on it, calling you controlling and manipulative. They're building a narrative where they're the victims. Let them. The truth has documentation. They have excuses. You want me to counter it? I could post some of those financial records. No, don't engage. Let them flail. Let them build their victim story. When they get home and reality hits, the truth won't need defending. You're playing the long game. I'm playing the only game that matters, the one where actions have consequences and words eventually run dry. At 6 p.m., my phone rang. I'd turned it back on expecting more calls from Eric. Instead, it was a number with a 630 area code. Chicago suburbs. I answered. "Mr. Bennett, this is Dr. Sarah Mitchell from Northwestern Hospital Emergency Department." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Your son, Eric Bennett, listed you as his emergency contact. He was brought in about an hour ago with severe anxiety symptoms, hyperventilation, chest pain, panic attack. He's stable now, but he's asking for you." Every instinct screamed at me to drive to Chicago immediately, to go to my son, to be the father he needed. Then I remembered, he only needed me now because he'd destroyed everything else. "Is he in actual medical danger?" I asked. "No, sir. It was a panic attack, not a heart attack. But he's extremely distressed and then he'll be fine. He has a wife. She can support him. Sir, I understand there may be family complications, but your son is in genuine psychological distress." "Doctor, with all respect, my son's distress is a consequence of his choices. I'm not coming to Chicago. If he's medically stable, he'll survive. If he needs psychiatric care, he should seek it, but I'm not rushing to his rescue." Silence. Then, "I'll relay that message. Thank you for calling." I hung up with shaking hands. Diana had been listening from the hallway. "Jesus, Harry. Too much?" "I don't know. Is it?" I sat down heavily on the couch. He's having a panic attack because his life is falling apart, the life he built on my back, the life he took for granted. Now he wants me to come running and fix it. And you're not going to. No. Because if I go now, I prove that he can treat me like garbage and I'll still come when called. I prove that consequences are negotiable. I prove that I'm still the safety net he can use whenever convenient. Diana sat beside me. What if it's more serious than the doctor thinks? Then Melanie will call back, or they'll admit him, or something. But I'm not driving 5 hours based on a panic attack caused by facing reality for the first time in his adult life. She took my hand. "You're shaking." "I know." "You're not as calm as you're pretending." "No, but I'm as committed as I need to be." We sat there in silence while the sun set outside and my phone stayed mercifully quiet. At 9 p.m., Melanie called. I answered. He's in the hospital because of you." Her voice was raw, stripped of all that polished PR professionalism. "He's having a breakdown because you're destroying our lives." "No, he's having a breakdown because reality finally caught up with the fantasy he's been living." "You're punishing him for one message." "No, I'm responding proportionally to 33 years of being taken for granted, culminating in one message that crystallized everything. That message wasn't an anomaly, Melanie. It was honesty. And I'm being equally honest in return. You're supposed to be his father. I was his father. For 33 years, I taught him values and ethics and responsibility. Apparently none of it stuck, so now I'm teaching him consequences. It's the only lesson he seems capable of learning. He needs you." "No, he needs my money. There's a difference, and he's not getting either one." "You're going to let him suffer?" "I'm going to let him learn. If you can't see the difference, that's your problem, not mine." I hung up. Diana brought bourbon. We drank in silence. "One more day until they land," she said eventually. "Yes." "You ready?" "No, but I'm committed." That's enough. That night, I barely slept, kept seeing Eric as a child, as a teenager, as a young man full of promise, kept wondering where it all went wrong. But morning came anyway, bringing day 5 and all its inevitable consequences. Friday, day 5. The car was gone by 9 a.m. Jimmy sent me a photo, empty parking space, tire marks, official repo notice on the ground where the vehicle had been. "They'll see that when they land," Jimmy said. "Flight gets in at 2 p.m. Perfect timing. The apartment eviction notice was posted at 10 a.m. Legal, formal, unavoidable. Dennis called at 11. Eric's business partner filed an emergency petition to access the accounts. Judge denied it. "Everything you did was by the book. They have no recourse." Good. At 2:47 p.m., my phone started ringing. Eric, Melanie, unknown numbers, a cascade of desperation. I turned off my phone. Diana did the same. We spent the afternoon working in the garden, pulling weeds, trimming bushes, pretending we couldn't feel the storm approaching. At 6 p.m., someone knocked on the door. We didn't answer. The knocking became pounding. "Dad, I know you're in there. Open the door." Eric's voice, raw and breaking. Diana looked at me. "You okay?" "Yes." "Liar." "Yes." The pounding continued for 15 minutes, then stopped. I looked through the window. Eric was sitting on the front steps, head in his hands. Melanie stood behind him, phone pressed to her ear, pacing like a caged animal. "They look destroyed," Diana whispered. "They look consequences." At 7 p.m., they left. At 8 p.m., Eric sent a text. "Please, just talk to me. I'll do anything." I read it 3 times, then deleted it. Diana found me in the office at 10 p.m., staring at the timeline on the wall. 2 more days, she said. 1, actually. Tomorrow's the final phase. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow I show them exactly what they lost. Saturday morning, day 6. I woke up with absolute clarity. Today, Eric would understand the full scope of what he'd taken for granted. At 9 a.m., I drove to Eric's unfinished office complex. The centerpiece of his business empire, the building I'd helped finance, the dream he'd claimed as entirely his own achievement. It was empty, half-constructed. Permits expired, a monument to ambition without foundation. I made 3 calls. First to Dennis. "File the property reversal. Everything I put in, I want back, today." Second to Jimmy. "Get everyone here by 2 p.m. Investors, partners, attorneys, everyone." Third to Eric. "Meet me at your office building, 2 p.m. Don't be late." He answered immediately. "Dad, just be there." I hung up. Diana met me at home. "You're doing it today?" "Yes." "The final strike?" "The final truth." At 1:30 p.m., we drove to the building together. The investors were already there, the attorneys. Eric's business partner, Jason, looking nervous and cornered. Eric and Melanie arrived at 1:55, frantic and disheveled. "Dad, please. Inside, now." We gathered in the unfinished lobby. Concrete floors, exposed beams, the skeleton of a dream. Gentlemen, I addressed the investors, thank you for coming. I'm formally withdrawing all financial backing from this project. My attorney has the documentation. Dennis stepped forward with folders. Eric's face went white. You can't. I can, and I have. Everything I invested is being legally reclaimed. The property, the equipment, the permits, all transferred back to me. Dad, this is my business. No, this was a business built on my reputation and my money. You just put your name on it. Jason stepped forward. Mr. Bennett, if you pull out, the entire project collapses. Yes, it does. You'll destroy everything we've worked for. No, I'll stop preventing you from destroying yourselves. Melanie grabbed my arm. Harold, please. I pulled away. Don't touch me. The room went silent. I turned to Eric. You wanted a life away from me. You've got it. Completely. Permanently. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. That message wasn't an accident. It was honest. Maybe the first honest thing you've said to me in years. Dad. I spent 33 years building foundations for you, catching you, supporting you, and you threw it away with one text message, so now you get to learn what life looks like without a safety net. I pulled out the final documents, the ones that ended everything. These terminate my involvement, my investment, my liability, my name, all of it. I signed them right there, in front of everyone. Eric's legs gave out. He collapsed to the concrete floor. Melanie screamed something incoherent. I handed the documents to Dennis, turned, and walked toward the exit. Wait! Eric's voice, broken and desperate. Please don't do this. I stopped at the door, but didn't turn around. You wanted distance. You've got it. Then I walked out into the sunlight, Diana beside me, and didn't look back. Sunday, day 7. I woke up expecting relief, expected satisfaction, expected something. Instead, I felt empty. Diana found me in the kitchen at 6 a.m. staring at coffee I hadn't drunk. You okay? I don't know. She sat down across from me. Second thoughts? No, just nothing. I feel nothing. That's normal. You burned through every emotion over 6 days. Now there's nothing left. My phone buzzed. Eric, again. Answer it, Diana said. Why? Because you need closure, and you won't get it by hiding. I answered on the 8th ring. What? Dad. His voice was wrecked, hoarse from crying or screaming or both. Please, I need to talk to you. So talk. Not on the phone, in person. Please, I'm at the house. I looked at Diana. She nodded. Fine, 5 minutes. I hung up and went to the door. Eric stood on the porch looking like he'd aged 10 years in 1 week, unshaven, hollow-eyed, broken. Say what you came to say. I'm sorry. For what, specifically? For the message. For taking you for granted. For everything. Okay. Okay? That's it? What do you want me to say, Eric? That I forgive you? That everything's fine? It's not fine. It won't be fine. You showed me exactly what I mean to you, and I responded accordingly. I didn't mean it. I was angry, and Melanie was... Don't blame your wife. You sent that message. You made that choice. He started crying, full, heaving sobs. Please, Dad. I've lost everything. The business, the apartment, the car, everything. Good. He looked up, shocked. Good? Yes, good. Because maybe now you'll learn what things actually cost, what support actually means, what family actually matters. I can't survive this. Yes, you can. You just don't want to. There's a difference. Will you help me? I looked at this stranger on my porch who looked like my son. No. Dad. But I'll give you one thing. One piece of advice, free of charge. What? Get a job. A real job. Not running a business with other people's money. An actual job where you trade hours for dollars and learn what work means. Start at the bottom. climb back up. And maybe, in 5 or 10 years, if you've demonstrated actual change, we can talk about having a relationship again. 5 years? Or 10? Or never? That's up to you. I started to close the door. Dad, I love you. No, you don't. You love what I provided. There's a difference. But maybe you'll learn that too. I closed the door. Diana was waiting in the hallway. You okay? No, but I will be. Monday morning brought strange normalcy. Bills to pay, groceries to buy, life continuing as if nothing had changed, even though everything had. Dennis called at 10 a.m. All documents filed, property transferred. You're legally clear of any liability. Thank you. Harry, for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Most days I believe that. And the other days? The other days I remember he's still my son. I hung up and found Diana in the garden. Jimmy called, she said. Eric and Melanie moved into a motel. She's looking for work. He's not doing well. Define not well. Sitting in the room, not eating, not sleeping, just staring. I felt something twist in my chest. That's not my problem. I know, but it's still true. We worked in silence for a while. Then Diana asked, Do you regret it? Which part? Any of it. I thought about it honestly. No, I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it. That's fair. My phone buzzed. Melanie. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. What? He's not eating, Harold. He just sits there, staring at walls. I think he's having some kind of breakdown. Then get him help. We can't afford help. We can't afford anything. We're living in a motel room and eating gas station food, and that's what happens when you build your life on someone else's foundation and then burn the bridge. You're cruel. No, I'm consistent. You two spent years treating me like an ATM. Now the account's closed. Learn to budget. I hung up. Diana raised an eyebrow. Harsh. Accurate. Both can be true. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept seeing Eric's face on the porch, that brokenness, that desperation. You're thinking about helping them, Diana said in the darkness. No. Liar. Maybe. She rolled over to face me. If you help now, you undo everything. You prove that consequences are temporary and manipulation works. I know. So don't. What if he really breaks? Then that's what therapy's for, what sponsors are for, what hitting bottom means. Harry, you can't save someone from themselves. You can only step back and let them find their own way up. And if they don't, then they don't. But that's not on you. She was right. I knew she was right. But it didn't make sleep come any easier. Tuesday through Friday passed in slow motion. Updates came through Jimmy. Eric got a job at a warehouse, manual labor, minimum wage. Melanie was working retail. They were surviving. Barely. I felt nothing. Then everything. Then nothing again. Diana watched me carefully. You're processing. I'm trying. That's all you can do. Friday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. Mr. Bennett, this is Dr. Sarah Winters from Clear Path Counseling. Your son Eric gave me your number. Why? He's been coming to see me, working through some things. He asked if I'd call you. To say what? To tell you he's trying, really trying. He's working, he's in therapy, he's taking responsibility. He wanted you to know that. Okay. That's all? Just okay? What do you want me to say, doctor? That I'm proud? That I forgive him? He destroyed our relationship. If he wants to rebuild it, that's going to take years, not weeks. I understand. I just thought you'd want to know he's making genuine effort. I do want to know that. Thank you for calling. I hung up. Diana appeared. Well? He's in therapy, working, trying. How do you feel about that? Glad, and completely unmoved. Both can be true. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. That evening, I finally let myself think about the future. About what relationship, if any, might exist with Eric years from now. Do you think we'll ever be okay again? I asked Diana. I think you'll be okay. Whether we includes him is his choice, not yours. That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be true. Saturday morning, exactly 2 weeks after that message, my phone rang. Eric. I stared at it for a long time, then answered. What? Dad, I'm calling to say thank you. Silence. Thank you? Yes, for letting me hit bottom, for not catching me, for making me face reality. I hated you for it. Still do some days. But I also understand it. I needed it. I didn't know what to say. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he continued, and I'm not asking for help. I'm just saying thank you for being the father I needed, not the father I wanted. Okay. That's all. I won't bother you again unless you want me to. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, feeling something crack in my chest. Diana found me crying at the kitchen table 20 minutes later. He called? Yes. And I don't know if I won, or lost, or both. She held me while I finally let it all out. 2 weeks of cold, mechanical precision, finally breaking. Both, she said eventually. You won and lost. That's what happens when the victory costs something real. I miss my son. I know. But I don't miss who he was. I know that too. We sat there together as the sun set, holding on to each other in the wreckage of what I'd done, what he'd done, what we'd all become. Tomorrow would bring new choices, new possibilities, new versions of us all. But tonight, I just grieved. 3 weeks after the message, Eric showed up at 6 a.m. I saw him through the window, standing in the driveway, not approaching, just waiting. I went outside. You're up early, I said. Work starts at 7, warehouse shift. Okay. I'm not here to beg. I'm here to show you something. He handed me a folder, pay stubs, therapy receipts, a budget spreadsheet. 3 weeks clean living, he said. No debt, no lies, just work and consequences. I looked through the documents. Everything legitimate, everything real. This is good, I said. It's hell, he corrected. But it's honest hell, and that's better than comfortable lies. We stood in the cold morning air, 2 men who used to be father and son, trying to figure out what we were now. I won't ask you to forgive me, Eric said. I won't ask for help. But I want you to know I'm doing the work. Every day, whether you ever want me back in your life or not. Why tell me at all? Because you deserved better than what I gave you. And even if we're never okay again, you deserve to know I finally understand that. He turned to leave. Eric. He stopped. Keep going. Keep doing the work. That's not forgiveness. No, but it's not condemnation either. It's just acknowledgement. He nodded once, then left. Diana appeared beside me. Well? I don't know what that was. That was a beginning. Maybe. Of what? Of whatever comes next. Saturday afternoon, exactly 3 weeks. I sat in my office staring at the timeline still on my wall. Every action, every consequence, every domino that had fallen exactly as planned. I should have felt victorious, vindicated, proven right. Instead, I felt tired. Diana brought coffee. You going to take that down? Eventually. But not today. Not today. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Bennett, this is Jason Trent, Eric's former partner. What do you want? To tell you that you were right. About everything. Eric wasn't ready to run that business. Neither was I. We were playing at being professionals while standing on your foundation. Okay. I'm calling because I'm starting over too. Smaller, honest. And I wanted to ask if there was any wisdom you'd share. Just one thing. Don't build on other people's foundations. Build your own. It takes longer, but it's the only one that lasts. Thank you, sir. He hung up. Diana smiled slightly. That almost sounded like you're healing. Don't jinx it. Sunday morning, the phone rang at 9 a.m. Eric. Dad, one more thing. What? I'm sorry, actually, genuinely sorry. Not for getting caught, not for losing everything, but for hurting you, for taking you for granted, for making you feel disposable. That message was the cruelest thing I've ever done, and you didn't deserve it. I closed my eyes. Thank you. Will you ever forgive me? I don't know. Ask me in a year. Fair. Eric? Yeah? I'm proud that you're trying. Silence. Then, that's more than I deserve. Probably. But I'm saying it anyway. He hung up. Diana found me on the back porch, staring at nothing. You okay? I broke my son to teach him consequences, and he's thanking me for it. I don't know how to feel about that. Feel complicated. That's the only honest option. Monday morning brought perspective. I looked at everything I'd done. The systematic demolition, the cold precision, the calculated revenge, and I realized something. I'd won. Eric was learning, growing, taking responsibility. The revenge had worked exactly as planned, but victory tasted like ashes. Is this what winning looks like? I asked Diana over breakfast. Sometimes, when the prize is change instead of destruction. I wanted him destroyed. No, you wanted him changed. Destruction was just the method. And if he hadn't changed? Then you'd have one less person in your life. But he did change, so now you have a choice. What choice? Whether to let him back in, eventually, slowly, on new terms. I don't know if I can. You don't have to know today, you just have to leave the door unlocked. That evening I dismantled the timeline, took down every note, every document, every piece of the revenge machine I'd built. Diana helped, working in comfortable silence. Feels like the end of something, she said. It is. And the beginning? We'll see. My phone buzzed one final time. Eric. Going to therapy again tomorrow. Thought you'd want to know. I typed back. Good. Keep going. 3 words. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Just acknowledgement. But it was enough. For now. I stood in my empty office looking at the blank wall where the timeline had been, feeling the weight of what I'd done settling into something I could carry. I'd destroyed my son to save him. I'd won by losing. I'd taught him consequences by becoming one myself. And somewhere in that wreckage, maybe we'd both find something worth rebuilding. Diana appeared in the doorway. Dinner's ready. Be right there. Harry? Yeah? You did the right thing. Even if it hurt. You sure? No, but I believe it anyway. I followed her out of the office, leaving the empty wall behind. Tomorrow would bring new choices, new possibilities, new versions of us all. But tonight, we'd just eat dinner and pretend normal was still achievable. And maybe, eventually, it would be. 7 days of silence had become 3 weeks of reckoning. The revenge was complete. The lesson was delivered. And Eric Bennett, broken, humbled, and finally learning, was paying every installment of the debt he'd earned. I stood at the window watching the sunset, feeling the cold satisfaction of a plan executed perfectly, a son dismantled and reconstructed, a family shattered and maybe, someday, rebuilt on honest foundations. I'd won. He'd lost everything. And in that loss, he'd finally found what mattered.